Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video on the Gooners and Gloves Podcast channel. In today's video, it's going to be the 63rd Gooners and Gloves Podcast, and I'm going to be giving you guys my thoughts and predictions for the Ben Whittaker versus Liam Cameron rematch taking place on Easter Sunday. Obviously, the first fight ended in incredibly bizarre circumstances, which I'll get to in a second, so as a result, this is a highly anticipated rematch, and yeah, one that I'm definitely really looking forward to. I think it's going to be a great fight. Hopefully this time we get a much more conclusive outcome and winner, because obviously the first one had to end in a split decision draw due to, again, one of the most baffling endings to a boxing match I've personally ever seen. So hopefully this time around we can have a much more conclusive ending, and hopefully we can get a great fight between two exciting fighters. Up until the whole incident happening, I thought the fight was quite entertaining. It was decent, it was back and forth, both men had their moments, and just hopefully this time we can get a much more conclusive ending. Obviously, in case you don't know how the first fight ended, basically as a result of Cameron both pushing and also Whittaker pulling, it resulted in them both going over the top rope, WWE style. Genuinely, it felt like I was watching a Royal Rumble where, two wrestlers eliminate each other at the same time and it's like, who wins? Genuinely, it felt like I was watching that, but yeah, they both collided over the top rope, and eventually it was decided that Whittaker couldn't continue due to, I think it was a leg injury. So as a result of that, the fight was called off, and in case you don't know the rules of boxing, when an accidental foul leads to the end of a fight, which is obviously what happened here, was an accident, what happens is, if it's past the fourth round, which in this case it was, it goes to the scorecards. So as a result, it went to the scorecards. Obviously the judges were very, very split because the fight was quite close. One of them gave it to Whittaker, one of them gave it to Cameron, and then one of them had it a draw. So if you don't know, that means it's a split decision draw. Had the fight not gone to the fourth round, it would have just ended in a no contest, because that's what normally happens. But because the fight had gone to the sixth round, the decision was made. So yeah, very baffling ending, very confusing. So as a result of that, understandably, there is a rematch on. So I think I'm going to go on and just give my thoughts on who I think is going to win. I'm definitely going to use the first fight as a basis, because I just rewatched it before, literally just before filming the podcast. I went and rewatched it so I could have a fresh perspective on how it went and kind of what I think is, going to happen in the second fight. Obviously, it's been a long time since then. This fight was all the way back in October and it's now April. So obviously there's going to be differences, but we can still use the first fight to kind of analyze it a bit. So in terms of their record, so Ben Whittaker is 8-0-1. Obviously that one coming from the previously mentioned draw with Cameron. As you can see, Cameron also has a 1 at the end of it, and that's just a draw because obviously the fight ended in a split draw. But other than that, he's won all of his other fights. He's got 5 knockouts. So he did enjoy a bit of a knockout streak for his first 4 fights, but then he's been on a little bit of a decision streak since. Then you've got Liam Cameron, who's obviously much more experienced, 23-6-1 with 10 knockouts. So obviously much more experienced, more knockouts, and we definitely saw he had way more power in the first fight, no doubt about that. Cameron definitely had the power advantage. There's no denying that one. So yeah, that's their records. So in terms of my prediction, I've gone with Ben Whittaker to win by decision. Obviously, I don't know if it's going to be split or unanimous or, majority, etc. But I do think that Whittaker is going to win by decision. That's my prediction. So let's get into why. So firstly, just kind of a few talking points from the previous fight. So Ben Whittaker undoubtedly had the speed advantage. He was much faster. His head movement was faster. His hands were a lot quicker. So definitely he had the speed advantage. However, as previously mentioned, I did think that Liam Cameron had the power advantage. I do think that Liam Cameron's shots were definitely like rattling Ben Whittaker a lot more. Whittaker's shots weren't affecting Cameron too much, maybe occasionally, but I definitely think that Cameron's shots were impacting on Whittaker a lot more. I'm not saying Whittaker was like close to being knocked out or anything, but his head was definitely being snapped back. There's no denying that one. So that's one thing which again I do expect in this fight as well. I do expect that again Whittaker will be faster and Cameron will be obviously more powerful. It was definitely a classic example of speed versus power, so I think that's a key talking point from that fight. I must say both of these men were definitely employing the dark arts in the fight. There's no denying that one. Seriously, like both of these guys were really employing the dark arts. Generally, I couldn't believe it. You had on one hand you had Liam Cameron with loads of shots to the back of the head, leaning his forearm against the face of Whittaker, throwing uppercuts while in the clinch, which like when the referee had said break. So definitely a lot of dark arts there. But to be fair, Ben Whittaker was definitely giving it back as well. He was landing a lot of low blows in particular. So that's one thing that definitely I did notice in that fight. There was a lot of dark arts being employed by both. I'm very, very surprised that the referee never ended up deducting any points from either of them, because there was a lot of fouling going on from both of them. So that's definitely something to also also bear in mind for both fighters, they're going to have to look out for those dark arts, and, you know, if they're going to keep doing them, they're going to have to be careful with it because they don't want to get themselves disqualified. So anyway, the reason why I think Whittaker's going to win by decision, I just think this time around Whittaker's going to be able to fix kind of the vulnerabilities he had in the first fight. You know, I just do feel that the first fight was pretty much Cameron's best opportunity to pull off the upset and to be able to beat Ben Whittaker. I know it sounds weird to call it an upset because obviously he's way more experienced, but the odds did have him down as the underdog and they had Ben Whittaker up as the favorite. So I do feel that that first fight was kind of his best opportunity to be able to finish him off, if you get what I mean. And just through very unfortunate circumstances, he lost his opportunity, obviously through unfortunate circumstances. You know, Cameron in the first fight was really good. He was landing great power shots. He was landing good combinations. And I think he was just making Ben Whittaker very uncomfortable. You know, the very good pressure, very good combinations, great power. And I definitely think that Ben Whittaker was quite uncomfortable throughout the fight. And also, you know, Cameron didn't seem too uncomfortable throughout it. You know, Whittaker was obviously very uncomfortable. Cameron at points was uncomfortable, but I think for the most part he was quite calm and composed. So definitely something to consider there. However, the reason why I think Whittaker this time is going to be able to win by decision is simply because I don't see him kind of being that vulnerable again, if you get what I mean. I think that his defense is going to be tightened up a lot by his team. Obviously, we know he already has the speed advantage. We know that from a technical standpoint, he's a bit better. You know, obviously Cameron in the first fight was kind of brawling a bit more, whereas I do think that Whittaker, you know, kind of had that more technical edge. You know, the shots he was throwing, he was landing at a high frequency, at a high accuracy. He had good combinations. He had good hand speed. So I just think this time around, those defensive vulnerabilities that Cameron was able to expose in the first fight, I just think this time around Whittaker's going to be able to kind of, you know, he's going to be able, like his team's going to be able to address those vulnerabilities. He's going to have practiced them in sparring, and I just think he's going to come out much sharper and much more defensively sound than he did in the first fight, because definitely no doubt about it that Cameron was struggling with Whittaker's speed, 100%. I think Whittaker's hand speed was definitely causing problems for Cameron. You know, he was getting hit with shots as a result of him. He wasn't really able to throw his own shots, and I just think kind of for every like maybe 2-3 shots that Cameron was throwing, you know, Whittaker was responding with like 5 or 6. And again, I know these shots weren't really impacting Cameron too much, but I just think you know, end of the day on the scorecards, that doesn't matter. You know, I mean, of course it matters a bit, like how much it impacts the other person, but end of the day, if Whittaker's able to land maybe 3 or 4 shots, you know, that are a bit lighter compared to maybe one big power shot from Cameron, most judges would probably still give the round to Whittaker in that case. So yeah, I think that's definitely going to be a big factor into why I think that Whittaker's going to win. I think he's going to tighten up those defensive vulnerabilities, and I just think he already has the hand speed advantage. He's already better technically, so if he can just tighten up those defensive vulnerabilities and kind of do the whole hit and not get hit thing, then I don't see how Liam Cameron could possibly beat him in that situation. But don't get me wrong, I have said decision because I don't see Ben Whittaker knocking out Liam Cameron. Firstly, Liam Cameron's just very, very tough, never been knocked out once in, how many fights? In 30 fights, he's never been knocked out once, and that's despite the fact that he's lost 6 of them. He's never been knocked out. He's only ever lost by decision. So definitely a very, very tough fighter. So that's the first reason. But also Ben Whittaker's power just hasn't really been that crazy in recent fights. It was pretty good in the first few, but naturally he was fighting, you know, much less experienced opposition. Naturally, as he's been increasing the level, the knockouts have come down, which is understandable. That does tend to happen in boxing. So I don't think that Whittaker knocks Cameron out, but I do think through, you know, fast punching, good combinations, effective head movement, and just generally, you know, hitting, going in and out, etc. I do think that Ben Whittaker will be able to box away at Liam Cameron, frustrate him, and eventually get the decision. That's what I believe. So I'm going with Ben Whittaker by decision as my prediction. I think that he's got the superior hand speed, he's got great head movement, and if he can just tighten up those defensive vulnerabilities that Liam Cameron was able to exploit in the first fight, then I could definitely see Ben Whittaker cruising to a decision. But again, not going to be easy at all. I'm not taking anything away from Cameron. I don't see Cameron getting knocked out. And to be clear, I'm not just saying it's going to be a wide decision where, you know, Whittaker's just going to win every round. No, there's going to be very close rounds. There's going to be rounds that Cameron makes very, very close. And yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot of close rounds. So don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that this is just going to be a walk in the park for Ben Whittaker, but I do think, you know, if he just tightens up those defensive vulnerabilities and kind of just resolves all the issues that he had, you know, he already has the superior hand speed, he already has the better head movement, he already has the better technical ability, the better combination punching, etc. So if he can just avoid getting hit with those big shots that Cameron was able to, you know, land in the first fight, then I could definitely see Ben Whittaker just kind of cruising to victory. So that's what I believe, you know, sorry, not cruising to victory, so I keep rewording that, not cruising to victory, but like fairly comfortably getting to victory, you know, maybe losing a couple rounds, maybe some rounds are close, but, you know, relatively comfortably I could see Cameron Cameron, making it to the scorecards and winning by decision. So that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Ben Whittaker by decision. Please let me know if you disagree. I know some people are definitely going to be going for the Cameron knockout, but I just don't see Ben Whittaker looking as vulnerable in the second fight as he did in the first one. And, vice versa, I just don't see Cameron being able to land as many shots as he did, because he really was landing a lot of shots. There were points he was just landing at will, and I just simply can't see Whittaker coming into the fight taking that many shots again. And obviously the hand speed already wasn't quick by Cameron in the first fight, so as a result of that, if he's landing less shots and, the hand speed already isn't there, then I just don't see Ben Whittaker getting hit a lot. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, that's my prediction. Cameron, a very tough fighter, no doubt going to make it difficult, but I do think this time around Ben Whittaker's team is going to kind of just shore up those defensive vulnerabilities, kind of just see this one out and just have Whittaker box smart, box effectively, and just get himself to the decision. So going to be a very exciting fight. Really, really looking forward to it. Please let me know down below who you guys think is going to win. Do you guys think that Ben Whittaker is going to be able to right the wrongs of the first fight, or do you believe that Liam Cameron will be able to get what many people view as his revenge, because a lot of people view that he was up before that whole incident happened. So yeah, definitely a very baffling incident. Hopefully no incidents of that nature again. Hopefully this time we can just get a conclusive finish, a great fight. Hopefully no robberies, nothing like that, just a conclusive fight, conclusive ending, and just a great fight between two exciting fighters, obviously on Easter Sunday, which is pretty cool, although definitely unusual to have a fight on a Sunday, but there you go. So yeah, hopefully everything I said made sense today. Essentially what I'm trying to say as kind of a summary is that I'm aware that Ben Whittaker was getting hit a lot in the first fight and was definitely, taking some power shots, but for me that was kind of really the only thing he did wrong. Like, other than that one single thing, his hand speed was great, his combinations were sharp, he was landing good shots on Cameron, he was getting the body work working, he was doing really, really well. It was just that one single defensive vulnerability that Cameron kind of just kept exploiting. So I just think that this time around he'll keep doing the things that he did well, keep doing them well, and I just think the one single thing he didn't do well, which was the defense, I think it's going to be tightened up, it's going to be shored up, and so for that reason this time around he'll be able to see out the decision. I don't think he'll knock him out, but I do think he'll be able to see out the decision, and vice versa. I just don't see Cameron being able to land as many shots as he did, especially with the inferior hand speed and the inferior just general speed. Whittaker's obviously very fast, gets in and out, great head movement, etc. And obviously the first fight he was able to land so many shots despite the the slower hand speed, just because Ben Whittaker had a lot of defensive vulnerabilities. But I think this time around those defensive vulnerabilities will be resolved, and as a result Whittaker wins by decision. So there we go, that's my final prediction. Ben Whittaker to win by decision. Going to be a great fight, a tough fight for both men, definitely a tough one for Ben Whittaker, taking some of the heavy shots from Liam Cameron, but I just think he's going to be able to get the decision this time. So please let me know down below who you think is going to win the fight. Really, really looking forward to this one. I'll obviously be getting out a reaction podcast to this fight as well, so do look forward to that. As always, I want to thank you guys for all the support on the channel recently. We're currently at 88 subscribers, so thank you so much for that. And if you do want to help me out to reach that big 100 subscriber milestone, then please like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications for more podcasts regularly. And without further ado, I'll catch you guys on another podcast soon. Bye bye.